Joey Mills here for Sportsman Boxing and Betfred, and I'm joined by Eddie Hearn. Eddie, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastically well. Little bit tired. It's kind of just creeping up on me. I think the fun and games of last week, but obviously we've got a huge weekend tomorrow night in Times Square, and then straight on the plane for Riyadh, where Canelo Alvarez looks to become a two-time undisputed champion. So another crazy week.
And the massive fights just don't stop coming, like you say there. Before we jump into this week's ones, I just want to cycle back to last weekend, obviously, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. One of the biggest British boxing occasions I can think of in recent memory. And one thing I did want to ask, first of all, I think it was inevitable. Senior was always going to turn up, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't. It never felt like it was going to be 100%. I did feel like he would struggle to not be part of that occasion. And when I heard on the Friday that His Excellency was making a play to bring Senior to the show, I thought there was a very good chance that it was going to happen. And I'm glad he did, to be honest with you. I mean, firstly, for the show itself, it was an iconic moment, and also for their own relationship. You know, I mean, I think any father should be there in a moment like that. And the content and the pictures of him arriving, him on the ring walk, him after, it made the event even more special.
And in the build-up, there was some comments that came out that it turned out they were actually a couple of years old from Eubank Senior, and you did mention that you would consider legal action against him for those comments. I wonder, have you and Senior had a chance to sort of straighten any of that out? What's the relationship like now?
No, I mean, only because what I was told was incorrect and he didn't actually say it. So, yeah, unfortunately, I was told some information of what Chris Eubank Sr. said, but he didn't actually say, which was quite bizarre. But, yeah, I don't think you're ever going to be able to control what Chris Eubank Sr. says. You've got to unravel it. Some of it's gobbledygook and some of it's insightful and factual. But, yeah, it was... We don't really seem to have much of a communication path, us two.
I mean, that does happen in boxing. And you had a bit of similar issues, obviously, with Junior, quite hostile in the build-up. Frank tagged in for you at one point. But I wonder, how far did that £1 million bet get? Did that ever happen? And have you written the check?
No, we were told that we'd lose our licence, unfortunately. We got written to by the British Boxing Board of Control to say that any licence holder that has a bet will be called before the board for punishment and potential loss of licence. So just as well we didn't have the bet, really, because I would have been $1 million lighter.
And just to sort of link a little bit to this weekend's action, obviously it looks inevitable that the rematch is going to happen with Conor and Chris. But another back and forth that seems to be taking place is with Conor and Ryan Garcia. How likely is that fight in the future?
Conor's a £147 fighter. It was a massive risk jumping up 2 weight classes, and he did incredible. I mean, his stock has gone through the roof through that fight, and it was a very close fight. But at some point, probably after the rematch, he's going to be returning to that weight class. So he's going to want all those big fights. I mean, he became a massive star across the UK on Saturday night, globally as well. Everyone's going crazy for him out here. So those big fights, whether it's Ryan Garcia, whether it's Devin Haney, whether it's Boots, whether it's Teofimo, I think you're going to see Conor in all those fights. He's a young man. A lot of these fighters right now, they're coming to the end of their career. They're in their mid-30s, and Conor's just in his late 20s and, fresh as a daisy and many years ahead.
And going from one massive fight to a potential massive fight, Tyson Fury, I mean, it seems to have lasted 6 months, the retirement, a little bit longer than some were putting it when it first broke. But interestingly, it seems like the direction he wants to go in is a third go round with Oleksandr Usyk. And I'm wondering, do you think that Tyson Fury is ducking Anthony Joshua?
No, I don't. I think that Fury's going to just say whatever he feels like saying at the time. I think that He talks about fighting Usyk next summer. I presume if he comes out of retirement, he's going to have a fight before that. But, I think everyone knows that AJ Fury is the fight. It would be bizarre if Fury came back and didn't fight AJ, but who knows what could happen. For AJ, we know he's had that little injury, but obviously he's going to fight in 2025, and we'll see what happens with Mr. Fury. We can't really do anything about it. I don't think it's anything for us to approach him or speak to Frank or speak to Spencer Brown. It's just going to come down to Tyson Fury really wanting to give the British public what they've always dreamed of, and we hope that'll be the case.
And Usyk's obviously got a lot on his plate at the moment anyway, because Daniel Dubois is up next for him, a huge stadium fight. But I wonder, do you think, I know a lot of boxing fans feel this way, that should be Joseph Parker in that slot, that he deserved that fight, perhaps first, being as Dubois had lost previously to Usyk?
Yeah, I mean, it was, very unfortunate for Joseph Parker. I mean, he still fought, he still got paid, but kind of feel like Joseph Parker really deserves a shot at the world heavyweight title. You can't really criticise Daniel Dubois for fighting Usyk instead. But, you got to feel Joe deserves that big fight. He's beaten Deontay Wilder. He's beaten Zhilei Zhang. He's beaten Martin Bakole. He's definitely had the best run, I think, of arguably any heavyweight, outside of Oleksandr Usyk, in terms of the victories that he's had recently. And Dubois had a good run too. But, I don't think you can really moan at seeing an undisputed heavyweight world championship fight.
And throwing it forward to Times Square now, King Ryan Garcia is back. It's one of the most talked about returns in boxing after a year out. I'm wondering, with the troubled recent past of Ryan Garcia, some of the things that he's had to go through, what do you think he needs to do now to finally kick on and become that sort of great next superstar and ultimately world champion in boxing?
Yeah, I think it's great to see him back, to be honest with you. I mean, look, you anyone with a brain could see he just wasn't right for that last fight. And, he was obviously going through something behind the scenes. Mentally, he was a completely different person. And I think he's done incredibly well to get back to this, normal place for him. I think he's under a lot of pressure. I think Friday is going to be interesting because it's a real weird environment. I was just down there a little while ago. You're in the middle of Times Square. There's no big crowd. There's no big arena. As we saw behind closed doors, which kind of gives it that little feel, some fighters react differently. And there's a lot of pressure on Ryan Garcia, as there is a lot of pressure on Devin Haney. And they're three really competitive fights where if you're not on your A game, you'll get beat.
Haney is who I was going to come on to next. I wondered, do you think it's perhaps a harder road back for Devin Haney? Because obviously he's still got his O, but I think a lot of people watch that fight, and despite the fact that it is now a no contest, a lot of fans have sort of held on to that image they saw, which was, of course, Devin Haney going down on the deck 3 times and initially losing the decision. And fans have a hard time letting go of something like that. So I wonder, is it even a harder road back for Haney than it is for Garcia?
Yeah, I think we live in a bizarre world in boxing where, Devin Haney showed so much heart that night and ultimately got beat by someone who was proven to be in the fight with performance-enhancing drugs in his system. And Devin seems to have come out of it the villain. But that's the strange world of boxing. Devin's a good young man. He's a great fighter. But I think there will be some demons on Friday night. He's got to overcome physically, mentally and emotionally. That was a tough night and a tough experience for him. And Ramirez is no joke. I do expect Devin to win the fight, but I think it's going to be an interesting fight for sure.
And up next, maybe a fight that you didn't expect to get made a few months back when Barboza came over to Manchester to fight Jack Catterall. But now he gets his shot at the world title, and it couldn't really come against a bigger name than Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah, I think, Barboza deserves it. He's coming off the Ramirez win. He's coming off the Catterall win. We wish that was Jack in there this Friday, but I think it's a good fight. Teofimo got to spend a little bit of time around him in this build-up. He's a great personality. He's well out there, but I think he's good for boxing. We know he's a phenomenal talent. You've only got to look at his resume. But again, with him, sometimes he does blow hot and cold, and this is good timing for Barboza. Coming off 2 good wins, and I think it's a great fight.
And it seems to have been on again, off again. It's a fight people have been talking about for years. But do you think this is what will smooth the path to Canelo taking on Terence Crawford?
Yeah, I believe that fight's done. So I think His Excellency has that in place. So a victory for Canelo Alvarez on Saturday. We'll see that mega fight with Crawford in September.
And do you think Crawford might get on the blower to Conor Benn for a bit of advice on how to jump 2 weight classes and put on a big performance?
I think Terence knows it all. You know, he's been around the game for a long time. He's confident to jump up and fight Canelo. It's a great fight. I think the size is going to be a little bit too much for him. But listen, he's a pound for pound great, and he can compete with anyone.
And one fighter that I think we were all stunned by his bravery, Martin Bakole taking on Joseph Parker, one of the toughest challenges you can get, pretty much from his sofa, if reports are to be believed. Obviously, it didn't come together for.
Million can do can make you do crazy things.
I mean, that is very true. But I think this is the fight he's known he's had for a long time. FA Jagba. How important is this for Martin Bakole for his journey to the heavyweight title?
Yeah, I expect him to beat a Jagba. It's a good fight. I mean, that you can always criticise decisions made previously. I just thought it was wild that with 24 hours notice they stuck him on an indirect flight from the Congo to Saudi to fight Joseph Parker on 1 day's notice. But he got his payday, and now he's in this fight. What that fight would have done to him and the stoppage, probably not too much. But a Jagba's decent, but I think Bakole will be much too much for him.
And just finally, I know it's a tough question whenever you're promoting a card and you're going to have a temptation to say all the fights. But what do you think is going to steal the weekend? What do you think is going to please the fans the most?
Ryan Garcia will be very explosive, and I think he'll win inside 6 rounds. I'm actually looking forward to Haney Ramirez and Teo against Barboza. But yeah, for me, the Friday night card is a really good card. 3 of the brightest young stars in boxing, and all in really competitive fights.